They said I don't even have a family. Yet the same people who mocked me were secretly plotting to take over my home behind my back. My own blood, the ones who laughed at my loneliness, were sneaking into the life I had built with my own hands. Evelina, the girl they once called worthless, was about to be stabbed in the back by those who had already abandoned her. Before I continue, make sure you hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this story, because what happens next will leave you in shock. That night, Evelina overheard her aunt whispering on the phone, words dripping with greed. She doesn't even deserve that house. She's all alone. Once we move in, who's going to stop us? She won't even know what hit her. Evelina froze, her heart pounding. The same relatives who never invited her to family dinners, who never stood by her side, were now planning to claim the only thing she truly owned. She wanted to confront them right there, but something inside her said, "Wait. If they think you are weak, let them believe it a little longer. Because when the truth comes out, the humiliation will crush them harder than any words ever could." And so, Evelina stayed silent, pretending she hadn't heard a thing. But in her mind, a storm had already begun. The house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was the proof of her struggle, her sacrifices, and the life they all said she could never build. And now, the very people who abandoned her were about to walk straight into a trap of their own making. The next morning, Evelina acted as if nothing had happened. She greeted her family with a quiet smile, even serving them tea while they sat in her living room, laughing and talking as though the house already belonged to them. Her aunt's words from the night before echoed in her ears, but Evelina kept her face calm. Her sister, Lillian, leaned back on the sofa, her voice dripping with arrogance. "Evelina, you should be grateful we're moving in. This place is too big for you anyway. You're all alone. It makes no sense for you to keep it. With us here, it'll finally feel like a real home." Everyone laughed. Evelina's parents exchanged smug glances, pretending their decision was wise and fair. No one noticed the slight twitch of Evelina's lip, the only sign of the storm brewing inside her. Inside, Evelina's heart raced. She remembered the countless nights she worked overtime to afford the down payment, the sacrifices she made when everyone else dismissed her as useless. And now, those same people dared to treat her house like a prize they had earned. Her uncle joined in, pretending to sound reasonable. "Look, Evelina, don't take it personally. We're just trying to do what's best. You don't need all this space. It's not like you have a family of your own." Those words cut deeper than any knife. Evelina clenched her fists under the table. Her chest burned, not with sadness, but with fire. Still, she didn't argue. She didn't beg. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as though she were considering their proposal. "Maybe you're right," she said softly, hiding the sharp edge in her voice. "Maybe I don't need all of this." Her family smirked, convinced she was already giving in. What they didn't realize was that Evelina wasn't surrendering. She was watching, waiting, letting them dig their own grave deeper with every word. Because when the truth finally came out, it wouldn't just shatter their plans, it would destroy their pride forever. That evening, Evelina sat alone in her bedroom, staring at the faint glow of her laptop screen. The voices of her family echoed from the living room, laughter, chatter, plans of renovations they wanted to make once the house was theirs. They spoke as if she didn't even exist, as though her silence was proof of defeat. But Evelina wasn't defeated. She was calculating. On her screen, a hidden folder opened. Inside were dozens of files, voice recordings, screenshots of past messages, and scanned copies of documents that proved, without question, that the house legally and solely belonged to her. She had prepared for this moment long ago, the very first time her family hinted at taking what wasn't theirs. She played back the recording from the night before, the hushed whispers of her aunt plotting. She doesn't deserve that house. We'll make it ours." Evelina's lips curled into the faintest smile. Every poisonous word, every dagger they had thrown behind her back, was now in her possession. Solid evidence of their greed and cruelty. The next morning, her family pushed harder. Her mother slammed a set of papers on the table, pretending they were official documents. "Sign these, Evelina. We'll make sure you're taken care of. Don't be difficult." Evelina's eyes scanned the forged documents. She almost laughed. Did they truly believe she was that naive? Did they forget she was the one who spent sleepless nights handling the mortgage, the contracts, the bills, all while they lived carelessly? Her sister leaned forward, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. "It's for your own good. You're not strong enough to live alone. You don't even have anyone. But with us here, you'll finally have family around you again." Those words stabbed at the very wound Evelina had carried for years. The loneliness, the rejection, the label of being the forgotten one. For a brief moment, her chest tightened, and her eyes stung. But then she reminded herself of something stronger. She had built this life alone. She had survived without them. And now their so-called family bond was nothing but a mask for their hunger. Evelina looked up, her expression calm, almost serene. "You're right," she said softly, her voice smooth as silk. "Family should stay together. But only real family deserves to share a home." Her words went over their heads. They smirked, convinced she was finally about to surrender. What they didn't know was that Evelina was already pulling the strings of their downfall. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth, that the house they were so desperate to claim would soon become the very stage of their greatest humiliation. The following evening, Evelina invited them all to sit in the living room. Her voice was unusually warm, almost too calm, as she placed her laptop on the coffee table. Her father raised an eyebrow. "So, have you made your decision?" Her sister smirked, already leaning back like a queen claiming her throne. "Finally realized you can't keep this place all to yourself?" Evelina simply smiled and pressed play. Suddenly, the room filled with her aunt's voice, sharp, greedy whispers. "From the recording, she doesn't deserve that house. Once we move in, who's going to stop us? She's weak. We'll make it ours." The laughter in the room froze. Every face turned pale. Evelina let the recording play twice before pausing it. Her eyes, calm but burning with controlled rage, swept across the room. "This is what you really think of me?" she asked softly. "That I'm too weak to protect what I built? That I'm not worthy of the life I earned with my own hands?" Her uncle stammered. "Evelina, it's not what it sounds like, but—" Evelina cut him off, sliding another set of papers onto the table. These were the original contracts, signed and notarized, with her name clearly marked as the sole owner. Every mortgage payment receipt, every tax document, proof stacked against them like iron walls. "This house," she said, her voice steady and unshakable, "is mine. Legally, permanently, irrevocably. And the fact that you tried to forge documents, to steal it?" She paused, her gaze piercing through them. "That's a crime." Her sister's smug smile vanished. Her mother shifted uncomfortably, looking anywhere but Evelina's eyes. But Evelina wasn't finished. She leaned closer, lowering her voice to a razor's edge. "I could hand this evidence to the police right now. You'd lose more than just your pride. You'd lose your freedom." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then Evelina stood, her presence towering over them. "But I won't. Not yet. Because punishment is best served slowly. You will leave this house tonight, and you will never step foot here again. If you do, next time, the police won't be the first to know. The world will." Her family sat, frozen, their arrogance shattered into dust. They had walked in believing Evelina was weak, that she would bend and break. But now they saw the truth. They had underestimated her strength, her intelligence, and her resilience. As they gathered their belongings in silence, Evelina watched them go. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. She felt powerful. She felt free. When the door finally closed, Evelina let out a long breath. Her house was quiet again, peaceful. Not a prison of loneliness, but a fortress of victory. And in that silence, she whispered to herself, "Family isn't who abandons you when you need them most. Family is who stands by you. And if you don't have that, then you build your own life strong enough that no one can take it away." The storm had passed. Evelina had won. Weeks passed after that night. Evelina's house stood silent but safe, untouched by greedy hands. The neighbors who once pitied her for being the lonely girl now began to see her differently. She walked with a confidence they had never noticed before, head held high, footsteps firm, as though the world itself had shifted in her favor. Her family never returned. Some tried calling, leaving voicemails filled with fake apologies, but Evelina never answered. She didn't need their empty words anymore. They had shown her their true faces, and she had burned that memory into her heart as a warning she would never forget. Instead of drowning in loneliness, Evelina turned inward, channeling her energy into her passions. The once quiet rooms of her house slowly filled with life again. Bookshelves she built herself, plants that grew tall in the sunlight, and late nights where she worked on new projects she once thought she wasn't capable of. She realized that the silence wasn't a curse. It was freedom. One evening, Evelina sat by the window with a cup of tea, watching the golden glow of the sunset spill across her home. For the first time in years, she smiled. Not the smile of someone pretending, but the smile of someone who had endured betrayal and still emerged stronger. Her house was no longer just a shelter. It was proof of her resilience, her independence, her victory. And though her family had tried to take it away, they had unknowingly given her something far greater, the courage to never need them again. Evelina whispered to herself, "Sometimes, losing people is the only way to find yourself." And with that, she finally felt at peace. Evelina's journey was never just about keeping a house. It was about fighting for her dignity, when even those closest to her tried to strip it away. Her story teaches us something we often forget. Betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. It comes from the people we love, the people we trust the most. And when it does, it cuts deeper than any blade. But those wounds can either break you or make you unshakable. Evelina chose strength. She proved that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. That kindness doesn't mean allowing yourself to be walked over. And that family isn't defined by blood, but by loyalty, respect, and love. In the end, her revenge wasn't just exposing their lies. Her true victory was reclaiming her life, her peace, and her power. Because the greatest revenge is not anger. It's not shouting. It's not even punishment. The greatest revenge is living so well that those who tried to destroy you have no choice but to watch you rise.